The snow was relentless. February 1959. In the dead of winter, 9 seasoned hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute vanished into the icy vastness of the Ural Mountains. Their goal was Otorten, but their final camp rested beneath a ridge with a name as ominous as the fate that awaited them. Kholat Syakli, Dead Mountain. Igor Dyatlov led the expedition. With him were 8 others, all experienced, vibrant, young. They documented every moment with cameras and journals. Laughter echoed in the snow. Until one night it all stopped. The tent was found ripped open from the inside. Footprints, barefoot and erratic, led into the forest. Bodies followed, some frozen solid in desperate poses, others mutilated in ways that defied explanation. One had her tongue torn out. 2 had fractured skulls, yet no external wounds. The snow had swallowed their screams. Official reports blamed a compelling natural force. But there were whispers, something unnatural, something that lived in the shadows of Dead Mountain. Galina Sokolova had never been there. Not really. She wasn't on the original expedition. But 60 years later, she returned. She was Dyatlov's niece. Her uncle's story had haunted her since childhood. Her grandmother, babbling in her final years, whispered things about voices in the wind, about lights in the sky. Galina had dismissed it until the dreams started. In them, she was walking through snow, barefoot in the dark. She felt watched, her breath freezing in her throat. Sometimes she heard chanting, sometimes screaming. Every time she awoke with blood in her mouth and ice on her windows, no matter the season. In 2019, Galina contacted a survivalist guide, a former Spetsnaz officer named Yuri Markin. She showed him photographs, the autopsy reports, her uncle's journal. Yuri frowned. "I've been to that ridge," he said, rubbing a scar across his brow. "Something's wrong there. The air tastes different." They assembled a team: Galina, Yuri, a linguist named Svetlana, and Tomasz, a Polish drone operator and skeptic. It was supposed to be 2 weeks, just long enough to visit the last camp and gather environmental samples. But from the moment their boots touched the snow, the mountain began to remember. They camped near the original site. Galina laid flowers and a candle on the snow. That night the wind howled like a living thing. "I heard footsteps," Svetlana whispered the next morning, dark rings under her eyes. "Outside, circling." "No one out there but foxes," Yuri replied, but his hand never strayed far from his rifle. The drone revealed something strange. Tomasz showed them footage of their tent from above, but there was another shape, blurry, just beyond the trees. It stood still. Yuri's face darkened. "Or who buried it?" Svetlana deciphered a few words from Dyatlov's final journal entry, previously thought unfinished. But under UV light, faint etchings appeared. Symbols, not Russian, not any language known to man. "Proto something," she muttered, carved into the skin of the pages, almost like scratches made by fingernails. That night, the wind carried voices, not screams, chanting. Tomasz, wide-eyed, refused to sleep. "There are people out there," he insisted. "I saw them walking between the trees, tall, too tall." In the middle of the night, the drone launched on its own. They found it miles away the next morning, its propellers cracked. It had recorded a brief transmission before crashing. A voice, cold, whispered in static, "You were not forgotten." Yuri vanished on the 6th day. His footprints led uphill, barefoot despite his thick boots resting neatly in the tent. They followed his trail through wind and snow until it stopped, suddenly in the middle of a clearing. No blood, no sign of struggle. Just a perfect circle of melted snow and scorched earth. Galina screamed when she saw it. She recognized the spot. It matched a photograph from her uncle's last roll of film. Same strange burn marks in the snow. Same empty stillness. A blizzard pinned them down that night. Inside the tent, the temperature dropped below reason. Their breath crystallized mid-air. Svetlana began to mumble the symbols from the journal as though they'd rooted in her brain. When Galina tried to wake her, she found the linguist's eyes open wide, but her pupils had turned to pinpoints. She was still breathing, but not blinking, not speaking, just mouthing the syllables like a possessed marionette. That's when Tomasz saw the lights above the ridge, pulsing, violet-blue lights, flickering like a wound in the sky. Then came the noise, a low hum that grew into a roar of metal grinding bone. They fled the tent. The snow glowed beneath them. Shapes moved within the light, tall, spindly figures, arms too long, heads bowed. They floated rather than walked. Svetlana collapsed in the snow and the lights swallowed her whole. Tomasz ran. Galina screamed after him, but he vanished into the white. Only his backpack was ever found, frozen to the side of a tree, straps shredded. Galina woke alone. She had no memory of returning to the tent, no memory of sleep. But her clothes were dry. Her wounds? Gone. In her palm, she found a smooth black stone etched with the same runes from Dyatlov's journal. It pulsed with warmth. She climbed to the ridge, to the circle where Yuri vanished. The snow was gone. Only rock remained, black and glassy. She recognized the bones. A silver locket, Svetlana's notebook, Yuri's scarf, Tomasz's drone, and among them, she saw something else. A photograph, weathered, curled with age. It was her uncle's team, smiling, unaware. But now, the faces were blurred, eyes scratched out. Then, the ground shook. The figures lifted their heads in unison, and Galina heard them for the first time, a chorus of voices speaking through her own mind. We were here before man. We do not forget. We do not forgive. The mountain remembers. The light consumed her. When I was 12 years old, my mom had just started trusting me enough to be home alone. We lived in a quiet, peaceful little town. Safe streets, spacious yards, friendly neighbors, and a charming village full of shops and restaurants. It was the kind of place where you didn't have to constantly look over your shoulder at night. That's partly why my parents felt comfortable leaving me by myself at such a young age. I still live in the same house with my parents today. The night everything happened was a weekend when they planned to go out for the evening. When we were younger, my grandparents would watch me and my older sister, but since my sister wasn't home and I was old enough, my parents decided to leave me alone. They had us young and were pretty active, often going out with friends or traveling on weekends. That night, they left me $20 for pizza. Perfect plan. Pizza for dinner and video games all night. I was obsessed with James Bond games back then. I was playing Nightfire on my PS2 for about the third time. After beating the game, I ordered a pizza from a place called Gianni's right near our house. It's been closed for years now, but it was a family favorite. I ordered a regular pie, which I could easily polish off 3 slices of. My mom told me to wrap up the leftovers and put them in the fridge. While waiting for the pizza, I swapped game discs to play Agent Under Fire, which I liked less but was still fun. When the doorbell rang, I grabbed the $20 bill and rushed downstairs. The delivery guy was a rough-looking man, maybe in his 30s, with a long, scruffy beard, glasses, and a black trucker's hat. I gave him the money and asked for change. As he handed me the box and counted the money, he looked up, then passed me into the house and asked, "You alone here?" That was a creepy question, and my parents had taught me well about strangers. I said, "My parents are on their way home." I guess I could have just said no, but I knew he was suspicious because there were no cars in the driveway, and a kid was answering the door. After he left, I ate 3 slices, wrapped the rest, put them in the fridge, and went back upstairs to play more games. Hours passed, probably around 11 p.m., when the doorbell rang again. I thought it was my parents, so I hurried downstairs saying, "Mom, Dad?" But the voice on the other side wasn't familiar. It said, "Hey, I need help. Can I use your phone?" I asked, "Who is this?" But they only repeated they needed to use the phone. I was scared and didn't want to peek through the window. I decided to ignore it and went back upstairs, but as I walked up, I heard banging on the door. The man said, "Wait, please, I need help." He must have seen me through the glass and was staring. I turned around, saw his silhouette, but couldn't see his eyes, just that creepy stare. I ran upstairs to my parents' room, where the only phone upstairs was. I called my mom's cell, and when she answered, she sounded tipsy, but became instantly serious. She asked if I had talked to the man, or told him I was home alone. I admitted I answered the door earlier, but didn't tell him I was alone. The doorbell rang 2 more times during the call. My mom told me to lock myself in their bedroom and keep the door locked. She said she and my dad were calling the police and asked me to stay quiet. I heard the back gate quietly open. I told my mom, worried he might try to get in through the den window. She told me to stay quiet and wait for the police. Then I heard footsteps inside the house. Someone was moving around. I whispered this to my mom, and she screamed into the phone, "He's inside! Hurry!" She told me to hide under the bed and stay put. The intruder tried my parents' bedroom door, shaking the knob, knocking lightly, but never speaking. After failing to open the door, he retreated downstairs. I barely made a sound, barely breathing. Then I heard heavy footsteps and a man shouting my name. The police were inside. They came upstairs, found me, and took control. There were 4 officers total, and they found the back door wide open, the sliding window also ajar. That's how the guy got in. I told the police everything, including my suspicion about the pizza guy. My parents came home shortly after. They were furious and went to Gianni's the next night to try to identify the delivery driver. The manager said it couldn't have been their regular delivery guy, Phil, who was out delivering that night. No one matching the creepy man's description worked there. My parents made a scene and vowed never to give the pizzeria our business again. We waited in the car for over an hour to see if the man showed, but he never came. The manager probably warned him. Lawyers wouldn't take the case. There wasn't enough evidence. My parents didn't feel safe leaving me alone again for a long time after that. I'm pretty sure it was the pizza guy or someone connected to him because no one else could have known I was alone. Years later, as a teenager, we moved from California to a remote area in North Idaho. My parents built their dream home deep in the woods. No neighbors, just dense forest backing onto national parkland and logging grounds. The house was huge. 2 stories, with a gym, bar, pool room, and a movie theater basement. It seemed perfect. I was dating my high school girlfriend, and one night while my parents were out on a date downtown, I invited her over. We hung out, drank a bit, and watched Gladiator in the theater room. Everything was normal at first, but around midnight something flipped inside me. I got this intense fight-or-flight feeling. My heart pounding, constantly glancing at the dark windows that looked out into the black forest. I didn't want to scare my girlfriend, so I kept quiet, even as I felt watched. After the movie, I walked her out to her car. When she left, I realized I'd left the lights on downstairs. As I turned them off, I looked out the big backyard window and froze. There he was, a wild-looking man with filthy clothes and crazy hair, smiling this enormous, creepy grin. His wide, dead eyes stared right at me. In his hand was a knife, and he gently tapped it on the glass again and again. I backed away in horror and went to the bar room where another big sliding glass door faced the woods. Turning off those lights, I watched as he calmly walked from window to door, still smiling and staring. He never tried to break in or move from the porch, just watched. I went upstairs and told my parents as they came home. My dad immediately grabbed his rifle and checked the property. My mom told me the area had recently had some break-ins, and the description matched the man. The police found no sign of entry or tracks, but the tapping on the windows didn't stop. Night after night, sometimes faint, sometimes loud, it kept going. I thought I heard footsteps on the roof one night, but never saw anyone. That winter, my parents went out of town for a few days, but they were still nervous. They gave me a shotgun to keep, and our big Rottweiler stayed with me. One night, I heard heavy crunching footsteps in the snow outside. The dog growled and barked like crazy. Something real was out there. Then came a slow knock at the front door. I didn't answer. The next morning, I followed fresh human footprints that circled the house, stopping at every window. They led into the forest, looping and zigzagging as if whoever made them was trying to lose me. One night, the tapping returned, louder than ever. I grabbed the shotgun, stepped onto the deck, and flipped on the fog lights. There he was again, the same man, same smile, holding the knife, staring straight at me. I fired a warning shot in the air. He staggered, backed into the woods, and that's when I let the dog loose. The dog charged into the trees, barking and snarling. I never saw the man again.
In March 2022, during my second year of college, my friends and I rented a cabin in South Carolina for spring break. 6 of us, 4 guys, 2 girls, looking to escape school and stress. The cabin was supposed to be remote, quiet, private land near a lake. The owner sounded odd on the phone, warning us not to wander deep into the woods because of old wells, busted fences, and snakes. We laughed it off. The drive was long. GPS lost signal an hour before we got there. The cabin looked old and neglected. Dusty windows, hanging shutters, and a faint smell of garbage. We joked about the character and settled in. The first night was fun, drinks, music, cards, but the woods around the cabin felt oppressive, like they were closing in. No bugs, no wind, just silence. Around 4:15 a.m. I woke up to a tapping sound. At first I thought it was the heater, but then I saw him. The same wild man pressed against the glass, pale, shirtless, staring with wide eyes and mouth slightly open. He tapped slowly on the window. I whispered for Matt, who was sleeping nearby. When he saw the man and turned on the porch light, the man vanished. The girls were terrified. Tyler tried to say it was just a drunk local. Chris thought maybe a lost hunter, but I knew it was that guy watching us. The next morning, we found footprints circling the cabin, stopping at every window, even the tiny one above the upstairs shower. That should have been enough for us to leave, but we stayed stubborn. Night 2, the atmosphere was tense. Everyone stayed alert. Around 3:30 a.m., Matt went to get water. Stopped and called my name. The man was inside the cabin, naked, back covered in fresh scratches, standing in front of the fridge, swaying slowly like he didn't know where he was. We switched on the light, but he was gone. The back door was wide open, not forced, just open. We left 20 minutes later. No one argued. We packed essentials and drove until we had signal to call the sheriff. At a nearby diner, the deputy wasn't surprised. He said the area had squatters causing trouble, not always right in the head. He didn't seem shocked when we described the owner and hinted he might know him. The cabin listing vanished days later, wiped from all sites. No answers, no calls, no deposit returned. But that face, the wild, wide-eyed smile, still haunts me sometimes at night. We don't talk about that trip much, and none of us have gone back.